Hi, my name is Sebastian van der Schrier, and I'm an ex-social anxiety disorder sufferer. And I'm also a social confidence coach, and I help people to go from social anxiety to feeling calm and relaxed in social situations, to the point where there is no anxiety anymore. Now, I've been doing that since 2009, and I've been working with hundreds of clients for thousands of hours. And a couple of months ago, I was like, man, I should start asking my clients for testimonials. And yeah, I've got 2 video testimonials that are somewhere here, or maybe at the end of this video. I don't know what YouTube allows. And I have another interview for you, and it's an audio interview, but it's very fascinating because Siamak, the guy who contacted me, he contacted me because he was dealing with a very specific anxiety. It was the anxiety that showed up for him whenever he was the center of attention. So he actually socially was all right when it came to family, when it came to close friends, he was okay. But as soon as there was a group situation, anxiety would spike up for him. And not just a little, he rated it on a scale of 0 to 10 to 10 out of 10. And so this was limiting his life, limiting his career. And he wanted to do something about it. And he had heard some of my podcasts as he had been doing his research on what might be possible solutions for him. And so he reached out and he wanted help for this. And also for a particular reason, he had a wedding anniversary, his 25th wedding anniversary come up, and he would be amazing if he could do a speech there. So that was the focus of our sessions. And, he'll tell you about what happened. Here's a bit of a spoiler. It's a happy ending. So, yeah, anyway, throughout the interview, you'll hear a lot of things, and you'll hear why it is that you have social anxiety, what common things people think when they have social anxiety, what the things are that often keep people stuck, often keep them from taking action, and most of all, you'll hear us talk quite a bit about EFT. Now, if you've never heard of EFT, because the common understanding of what you should do to reduce your social anxiety is to change your thoughts, be mindful, and breathe deeply, and progressively face your fears. And while that has its value, I personally found that didn't work for me. Plus, I wanted to be free of my anxiety. I didn't want to just reduce it. I wanted to be actually free of it. And in order to do that, you want to look at what causes it. There's a reason for why it's there. And we discussed that at great length. And so we're not using that approach. We're using the foundation of that approach, and we're actually applying energy psychology, EFT. So what is EFT? EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's a psychological form of acupuncture. But instead of using needles, you tap with the tips of your fingers on specific acupressure points in the body. Now, you look ridiculous when you do it, and if you see this for the first time, you probably think, yeah, right, next scam, where's the buy now button? But it's actually something that's scientifically proven to be effective. It's endorsed by PhD psychologists, being used by millions of people worldwide. It is an amazing technique to rapidly reduce negative emotions and release old stuck negative emotions. So you can get to a place where you actually feel calm, where you feel relaxed, and you can just be yourself socially. Now, how to do that, how he got there, that's what we'll be discussing in this interview. And enjoy. Here we go. Siamak, why did you decide to reach out for coaching, and what was the problem that you experienced that you came to see me for?
Yeah, actually the problem was mostly when I was in some certain social situations, such as being in the center of attention, or even as simple as introducing myself to a group of people at work, or when the number of people are bigger than, for example, 4 or 5 people, and I don't know them, or even I know them. Sometimes I got extremely anxious, and I felt very bad. I was shaking, and even a simple introduction was a big challenge for me sometimes at work, to introduce myself to a couple of people. And that was the issue, that at first I thought that this is me. I didn't think that I have a challenge, but I was thinking that I was born this way. So I thought everything is normal until like 8-9 years ago, when I was started working in a company in which I should talk about my work every day for a couple of minutes, very simple task about the progress of the projects. And that was a nightmare for me. Like a group of people was listening, and that was something that really was difficult for me. And I was very nervous, very anxious, and I had too much problem. And the biggest problem was that they noticed my anxiety, and I pushed myself to look normal, and I was unable to do that. And it was automatic. As soon as it was my turn, even before it was my turn, my heart was pounding, and I felt very bad, and I was blushing, and that was one of those moments where the worst moment in my life, if I want to describe it. So after those events, I started to think about that, and I searched for a solution, and I realized, no, that's something that I can fix. I attended some CBT sessions by some psychologists, and mindfulness approaches, some other approaches for some sessions, and studied some books, especially CBT, and tried to have some exposure to the situations that I had problems, such as being in the center of attention, which was very painful. But to be honest with you, they didn't work. And I gave up, to be honest with you. After like couple of months working, I ordered another package online. They sent it to my house, a book and a CD, and I went through them and worked with them and worked with some psychologists. I had a little bit progress that was not noticeable, and I said, okay, that's the way that I have to continue my life. And because it's not very it doesn't play a very important role in my job, but I could survive it this way, and I had no problem to continue. But that was something that always kept my mind busy, that I should resolve this issue, not only because of job or some certain situation, because I would like to live the life in my fullest potential. And I realized that if I fix this issue, it opens some other opportunities to my life. So beginning January, February this year, I started to think about that again, to give it a try. I searched in the internet. I had no idea about energy psychology or other approaches. But I Googled it, and like public speaking, fear of public speaking, and other keywords. And it popped up with lots of information about energy psychology, logo synthesis, EFT, and I had no idea. At least I spent a month on this. Finally, I came with this conclusion that EFT seems to be a more effective approach. However, I was very skeptical about it, and I did more research and listened to some podcasts and educated myself, and I realized that it's bigger than to be a spam. And I found out that many psychologists, PhDs, practitioners are working in energy psychologies in different fields of energy psychology, and their clients have had amazing result. So I said, why I should not try it? Because that's something I felt. On the other hand, I think that is the responsibility of every person to fix these type of issue, to get to the better level of life and better level of confidence. And so through that research, I got familiar with you, and obviously that was I was fortunate enough to have those sessions.
Nice. And was there also a moment that you're like, all right, I have enough of this? Because you came to me with a certain goal, didn't you?
Yes, definitely. The reason that I started like 3-4 months ago to look for healing of this issue was an event, which I told you, that was the 25th wedding ceremony. And I really like to have a quick speech in front of the friends and relatives. Usually we had lots of parties and everybody enjoyed it, but nobody talked anything, and I had no speech. But this time I said, okay, that's a good time that I have a speech. And that was another motivation. But the biggest motivation was the more I looked at these approaches, the more I got hopeful and optimistic about that should work. And I believe that if I fix this issue, it's a big moment and big opportunity for me. So that occasion obviously played a role, but that was not all. And if you want, I can explain about the experience I had in my wedding ceremony.
Yeah, we'll save that the creme de la creme for a little bit later. But yeah,
Sure.
Well, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple of questions that I popped off the internet that kind of want to draw out your experience and your thinking, before, during, and after the coaching, so that people get an experience, they can probably relate to it, because we tend to think that we're very unique, and we are, but we also have a lot of similarities, and what we think is very personal is usually very universal. It's like a common understanding in therapy land. So my question is, what was the obstacle that would have prevented you from investing in coaching, if any?
The biggest obstacle was I was not very I was not convinced that these approaches work. Like, I had CBT, I had mindfulness, I had some exposure to a scary situation. Like, when I say scary, I mean it's scary for me, such as being in the center of attention. And it didn't work, or it worked a little bit. I can't say it didn't work. It obviously worked, but I didn't get to the point that I say, okay, I'm confident now, or I got the expected result. So that's why I said, okay, that's probably part of me. I was born like this. That was like hard-coded in my mind. I couldn't believe that someone which has this type of anxiety, I don't know, I can call it social anxiety, because social anxiety from my point of view, it's very broad definition. But I was very anxious in some certain situations. So I was thinking that this doesn't work. That was the biggest
Right.
bottleneck. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because thanks for bringing that up. That's a good point. Like, that happens for a lot of people. Like, you have a problem, and first of all, you realize that you have a problem, and you're like, oh, okay, I have social anxiety. This is something that is known, and it's something that apparently you can do something about. And then you try a couple of things, and so you try the first thing, and now you learn that the thing that you are suggested is a solution. So you're like, I have a problem, here's a solution, I'm going to give this a go. I feel hopeful that I can resolve this if I just do this approach that I'm suggested. And then you try the approach and it doesn't work. Now your hope is a bit more crushed and you're like, oi, uh-oh, that's not a good sign.
Yes.
Maybe it's me. And then you try another approach and that also doesn't work. And now you're even more deflated and defeated. And now you start to despair. Like, oh my God, what if I can never overcome this? And you start to believe, man, there must be something totally wrong with me. Maybe I'm broken. And it could be very, very scary to have that. And also what happens when you try a bunch of things is like, I don't want to get my hopes up again to get crushed again. Because having your hopes up and then have it completely crushed is a very painful experience. And your subconscious actually starts to protect you by becoming skeptical. And, by saying, all right, well, let's just do very, very good research and look for any potential thing that says that this can't work, and then you can just not take action on this, because what if you try it and this doesn't work too? Are you sure you really want to get your hopes crushed again? Right?
Yes.
So it's
exactly.
Experience.
That's exactly the reason that I was that was the biggest obstacle and the biggest challenge, that I couldn't convince myself that there is an approach that can be work. On the other hand, I thought that my case might be a very, very tough case. Mm-hmm. Like many others, I heard from many other people that think that their case is the toughest case.
Right.
I was the same thing, that I said, no, this case probably has no resolution. There is no way to fix my issue. That was the obstacles that blocked me actually to, or I was stuck with this type of negative thinkings that stopped me to try any approach. But I'm very, very happy that I found this approach, and I learned a lot, not only about this approach, I learned about myself. And that was something that there is always a gift in any challenge, that my anxiety issue guided me to know myself more, and as a result to love myself and allow myself to return to the natural state of health and well-being. And that was the case.
And you mentioned that you didn't necessarily have social anxiety because you had situations in which you were comfortable, such as with your family and everything. But once you were the center of attention, you can be yourself. And in a couple of other situations as well, if I remember correctly, where you didn't, right? Like, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I kind of am right now. But I kind of want to draw out, what the whole problem was.
As I mentioned, that the biggest problem, I can't say I was fully confident in other social situations as well. So when I say I had no problem, it means in a scale of 0 to 10, my anxiety for like other situation was probably 2 or 3, so I could handle the situation.
Mm.
But there were a couple of situations, such as public speaking, giving a speech, and being in the center of attention, or performance situations, that I felt extremely, extremely anxious.
On a scale of 0 to 10, how intense was that there?
10. I can say 10. In some of them, I was obviously 10, and I tried my best not to be in those type of situations.
Okay.
Either at work or any other situation. But sometimes I had no choice, like that company that I was working 8-9 years ago.
Gotcha.
And that was the part of the job. So as far as I remember, I was a shy person in overall since my childhood. As far as I remember, grade 1, grade 2, I can say I was a shy person. But I remember I was okay when the teacher asked me to come in front of the school and answer the questions about the subject. Up to grade 5, I think. It was not scary. And I think my problem started sometime probably at the age of 11 or 12. Obviously, I remember I was very anxious in verbal subjects that I needed to go in front of the students and talk about something. Grade 10, grade 11, grade 9, I was extremely anxious. Yeah.
Okay. The flow of my conversations is a bit less than normal because I got these off the internet, but they're good questions though. So what did you find as a result of the coaching process? So in other words, what results did you get? Yeah.
I think you used a very good word when you said process. So it's not just EFT. From my point of view, EFT is a tool that just facilitate that process. So it's the process of releasing all emotions, and as a result, becoming who you really are and reconnect to your true self. And EFT as a tool helped me. That's my understanding. I'm not expert in this field, but I try to read as much as I can. And through the sessions that we had, I learned a lot. And the podcast that I every day listen to at least one of them, especially from you, I realized that is a process. Like there are some other steps involved, such as acceptance and self-acceptance. So it has nothing to do with EFT itself, but it's the part of the process. And those are very important concepts that I learned through this, because I'm a technical person working on my field, usually reading my books. So this type of stuff was sort of new for me, but I'm getting more and more interested in human brain and psychology, and especially energy psychology, because it worked for me. And I'm very excited for that. And as I said, healing is not much about getting better as about letting go everything that does not belong to you, and getting rid of all negative beliefs, releasing all emotions, and becoming who you really are, and I call it recovery of your true self. That's and reconnecting and uncovering the richness that I have always been. And what I found is that I was disconnected to my true self because of the events happened in my life, especially in my childhood, which most of us have these type of events. Events such as being bullied by classmates or humiliated by parents, relatives, or teachers, and so on.
Yeah.
And these were something that helped me to realize what's going on and to know myself better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we worked through a couple of key memories, and we addressed a whole bunch of other stuff as well.
Yes.
And you're right that it's not just EFT. EFT is a tool, like it's a tool that is very effective. But as my mentor, Dr. David Lake, says, it's a release technique. It's a technique that's very effective to get rid of negative emotions.
Yeah.
But there's a whole process of a therapeutic process that happens in throughout our meetings, and EFT is one of the tools. Psyche is another one. Logosynthesis is another one. Emotion code is another one, and then there's also the interaction between the two of us, and your beliefs are being challenged and changed and shifted around, and emotions are being released and past events are cleared up. So that you get to be present in the now, and you no longer relive those old emotions from your little self, because that's
absolutely
that's what happens a lot. Okay, so and what have you found has changed? Like how are things different now compared to how they used to be?
The biggest difference is I feel calm and relaxed in those type of situation, and as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, I was going to give a quick speech in my 25th years of my wedding ceremony. And I talked to my wife about that. To be honest with you, I was not sure even up to the day of the party. So even we had those sessions, I worked a lot and lots of tapping, and I realized something is shifting within me, but because I had no exposure to the real situation, I was not sure. And my wife asked me in the morning that, are you gonna give your speech? And I said, let's see how it goes. In the parties, because I was not still sure that I can handle it.
Yeah.
And in the party again, my wife after dinner, my wife came to me and asked me if I'm willing to give my speech. And at that moment, I said yes, with confidence, actually, and because I felt really good. And I said, yes, I'm ready. And it went very well. It went much better than I expected. I was calm and relaxed. And it was an amazing feeling and experience while giving my speech. And after that, I felt great in order to be able to handle the situation in a calm and relaxed manner. And that was a proof, actually, for me that it is working, and it worked for me. And it opened the door for me to continue on it for my personal development and heal any remaining issues that may arise in any certain situation. And my speech was recorded by a friend in the party, and I watched it at least 10 times so far in the last 2 years. And I really enjoy my confidence and having fun while I'm giving my speech.
Yeah, you send it to me.
That was an amazing experience. And to be honest with you, as I mentioned, I was not sure to give my speech up to the party. Even in the morning, I had some tapping, I practiced, and I said, okay, when I'm in the real situation, how I would feel.
Yeah.
But when I was in the party, I was close to that situation. I felt very calm and relaxed. And my wife asked me, are you going to give your speech? I said, yes, with confidence. And it went very well. I was interrupted by audiences a couple of times because of
Clapping.
Dapping. And after I continued without any issue, calm and relaxed, I finished my sentences. And I think everybody enjoyed my speech.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're saying, I want to speak to that a bit, is I didn't know how I was going to do up until the moment itself. Yeah. So what often happens is okay, so say you start out with a public speaking fear, such as what happened for you, and it's a 10 out of 10 strong, and you do the work within the coaching sessions, and you release that fear. Then at the end of it, when you think about it, you feel calm and relaxed. And that's where the shifts and changes happen. But then, all right, so at the end of the sessions, you can picture it, and you can visualize it, and you feel good. But that's as far as we can test it within the session, right? The real test comes in the real world, and that's what you're describing. And then it's like, all right, well, I still feel comfortable now. Okay, it's getting closer to the speech. I still feel comfortable now. Oh, normally I'm starting to get really anxious now, but I'm still comfortable. Hey, it's about time, a couple of minutes before I'm giving my speech. I'm still relaxed. Now I'm being asked, all right, there's still no anxiety. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And then you're doing it, and people often report that they're like surprisingly calm and relaxed, like a feeling that,
Yes, other than just something came to my attention that other than calm and relax, I didn't care about people's judgment, because one of my biggest problem in those situations was people's judgment and how I look. My voice is shaking, or my voice is good, or am I doing good, like the performance perspective.
Yes.
These increased my anxiety. And I was totally calm. I didn't care about people's judgment.
Right.
And that was another factor that I want to add to the consideration, that was another shift. Right now, if I go to a social situation, I really don't care about people's judgment and other stuff.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that comes from the self-acceptance. It's like, hey, I accept myself. I accept myself to the point where I'm okay with whatever you think of me, because I'm okay with me. And
exactly.
You've got permission to think what you want to think.
Exactly. Self-acceptance was very interesting concept that I went through a couple of times to your website, as well as I read some other articles, especially from Dr. Steve Wells, which was amazing article about self-acceptance. And I still think I'm not accepting myself 100%, but it is much increased, and I'm accepting myself much more than before. And at first I thought acceptance or self-acceptance means you are okay with the situation. But later, when I read more about that and listened to different podcasts, I realized no, self-acceptance means you accept your current situation and whatever and whoever you are, but at the same time you have some goals and you have some targets, and you have some plan to achieve those goals and targets, to be not a better person, to be more of yourself, to be your true self.
Right. Yeah. Acceptance isn't, well, once I'm socially confident, then I accept myself, or once I have that
Exactly.
girlfriend or boyfriend or amount of money or job or whatever, then I accept myself. That's not how it works. It's I accept myself as I am and as I change. And
Yeah.
yeah, Steve is great. One of the people I learn from, and we did a podcast. We did a couple of podcasts, but one of them is on the topic of self-acceptance. And I'm scrolling through to see if I can find Control F self-acceptance. Yeah, podcast number 5, self-acceptance, a key to social comfort. So people can, if you're listening to this, you can go check that out. So yeah, absolutely. All right, great stuff. So the speech went well. Other things have improved. Let's go to a bit of. And just want to point out, isn't that amazing? So you mentioned
Is it amazing? It is amazing, and I was thinking about that. FFF, if I'm not mistaken,
flight,
it's
freeze response.
Fight, flight, freeze response, which was an automatic process. And as soon as I had exposure to those type of situation, I had no control, and it was automatically triggered.
Yeah, in the past.
And I blamed myself always that why I cannot control this FFF, not to be triggered. I had no idea. It was completely automatic, and I had no control over it. Now I realized it's not triggered at all.
Mm-hmm.
It is shut off, and it is cut off, and
Yes.
That's something amazing that I realized that FFF is not triggered. And I think the biggest reason is some of those emotions are released, and I feel safe.
That's right.
In those type of situations, which play very important role to my confidence and being calm and relaxed.
Yes, absolutely. So as you were describing 9 years ago when you had to do these presentations, and you also mentioned that you did a bunch of Toastmasters, when you were in those situations, you didn't feel safe to be yourself for various beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be the center of attention.
Exactly.
What if they're going to reject me? What if they're going to make fun of me? What if they say something stupid? All of those kinds of beliefs and fears cause you to not feel safe in that situation because of past experiences and programming and so on. And then because your brain in those situations read it like, there's possible danger here, that's when it fires off that fight, flight, freeze response, which leads to those anxiety symptoms. You're racing hard, lump in your throat, tightness in your chest, mind blanking out, not possible to be funny, not possible to think on your feet because you're just overtaken by this response, which is the body's natural survival response in order to be able to deal with that danger that your subconscious mind perceives. So
exactly.
As we've shifted and changed that around, as we dealt with and released those reasons for why you didn't feel safe, now you did that presentation, that speech at your wedding ceremony, and it's not there. And what I was trying to say is, like, isn't it amazing? It was a 10, and now it's a 0 because that whole fight, flight, freeze response doesn't get activated if there's nothing to be. If your brain doesn't perceive there to be a danger, it won't fire off that response, which is why this is
exactly. I was thinking about what happened, and because I'm a technical person, I'm not a psychologist, but I try to analyze and think about what happened. I think EFT or this process opens a door to talk to the subconscious mind through those tapping. As far as I find out through different articles and books and podcasts, subconscious mind is much, much bigger than conscious mind.
Yes.
probably 95% of our intelligence is subconscious or even more, and just 5% or less is conscious mind. And whenever conscious mind talk to subconscious mind wins.
That's right.
So that's EFT, and this process helped me to talk to my subconscious mind and let him know that you are safe, release some emotions and some other things that I can't recall, you know better than me. And now as a result, I had those type of shifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got a conscious mind, which is exactly about 5%. Some experts have different ideas: 5%, 10%, 2%, whatever. It's a small percentage compared to the subconscious mind, which is the bigger part of you. It's actually not. It doesn't have a personality of its own. You can kind of compare it to a tape recorder. It records all the information from even before you were born, and it tries to make sense of the world. By store it holds all the information. So from the moment you're born, all the experiences that you have, all the sounds, the smells, the taste, sensations, it's all stored there in the subconscious. And from experiences that you have, it learns things, and in order to start to form a map of the world, so that it can navigate you through it safely, because its prime directive is survival, to keep you safe.
Exactly.
And so, it learns particular beliefs from experiences. So if you're constantly criticized by your parents, for example, it might learn, okay, I'm not good enough, and that's an interpretation of the experience that you're having over and over. And since that is the case, your subconscious is like, all right, I need to take on this belief because this is the way the world works, and I need to have an as accurate map of reality as possible so that I can navigate through the world as safely as possible. And so you're running around with these beliefs, and then you might have a bully experience, or
right.
You might get punched in the face out of nowhere, and you're like, uh-oh, I got to be careful. I can't trust people. Boom, now that belief is also in there. And these beliefs, they're running the show. They're linked to your nervous system, and they're operating on that subconscious level. And that's why out of the blue, all of a sudden, you can get triggered by a feeling of insecurity or a feeling of shame or whatever, and we're just reliving the emotions of these past experiences, and we're perceiving the world through these beliefs that we have learned. And consciously, it's very difficult to change that. So when you're triggered by something and you feel really anxious, just saying to yourself, oh, I'm okay, this is not really bad, I'll be fine. Try it and see how it works. It doesn't really work. It works a little bit. Maybe you get a little bit of reassurance, but it's just tiny compared to,
Exactly. Because that FFF is triggered by subconscious mind, and you have no control. And I think this type of issue cannot be resolved through conscious mind.
No,
because it's happening in the subconscious mind.
Right. All right. Well, let's switch to the next question. So, what specifically did you like most about coaching?
At first, actually, I tried to learn it myself and go to the process and see how it goes. But later, I realized that there might be some issues, especially in my past life, that needs therapy and needs to be seen by an expert or a practitioner. So that was an amazing opportunity for me to have those sessions with you. And we went through many issues, especially in my past life, and that chart which
With past
You help
life, you
me.
mean like yeah,
No, it's
not
my
not
English.
your former life.
Not my former life. I
Yeah.
mean my childhood.
Right.
And those charts that you help me to go through and go one by one to release those emotions, that was something that obviously I was not able to do that myself because I don't know that type of things. So we went through many other things I can't recall exactly, but the biggest one as far as I remember was those emotions and the chart that we went through, and we went through each one by tapping to release those emotions. And instead of reliving my past life at present, I was emotionally free. I can recall lots of events without any emotion. On the other hand, there were something in my subconscious mind that I couldn't recall, but very roughly, very like not clearly remember something about I was humiliated by, for example, my dad. And the beauty of EFT is, as far as I found, is you don't need to recall the exact event in your childhood. It works. You can just imagine that something happened and you were bullied or you were humiliated by someone and go through tapping, and it works.
Okay.
That was the biggest advantage of coaching, I think.
And what did you like most about it? Like, was it enjoyable? Was it painful?
It was mostly enjoyable than painful. The painful part was when you asked me to remember some of the bad experience and event in my childhood, which I had to remember. It was not super painful, but obviously thinking about those type of memory, it's not it's not a pleasure. I mean, nobody like it. Right. But that was the painful part. But the enjoyable part was the tapping and the fun way that you handle the situation. I remember in the last session, you discovered a seriousness within me. Mm-hmm. And we tapped through that. I realized, yes, I try to be serious in those situations, and that is a kind of disconnection between my real self and my true self and who I really am, and that caused another anxiety. Mm-hmm. Why I was very serious, probably because I want to have respect from other people. Right. And I found out if I'm serious, and we went through tapping through those type of emotions, and we cleared them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to be clear for people. So the pain that you experienced thinking about those memories, we're not talking about, going through extensive detail of traumatic memory and reliving all the pain and so on.
Exactly.
Right? Like you recall it, and then it's now we know what to focus on, and then we actually start releasing it. Right?
Exactly.
Because people might be, like I don't want to think about any of my traumas, and I don't want to be re-traumatized. Right. This is a very gentle approach. So right. while you experience some negative emotions, as we bring them into your consciousness, we then immediately start releasing them. So it's a short-lived thing.
Yeah.
All right. 3 other benefits of coaching.
It's a tough question. I think because it's done by an expert or practitioner, obviously they can identify the source of the issue, and they do root cause analysis, and they can go through each single emotion, which might be related to your anxiety, and they clear all of them. So I think that should answer your question.
Okay. Let me be more.
I don't know about two others.
Let me be more specific. Okay, what I meant is, what are 3 other benefits in your life as a result of the coaching?
3 other benefits in my life through coaching. So obviously, I learned about the process much better, because when it's provided by an expert or practitioner, at the same time that you are practicing the process, you learn and you realize how to handle it by yourself when it's needed. Because I still think that there are lots of things that I have to go through and release the emotion using this EFT technique. It's not the end of a story. It's I had a great progress. I'm very happy for the amount of time that I spent. I learned a lot about myself. I learned about some very interesting concepts. But at the same time, it's not finished. It's just the beginning of the personal development. I call it personal development, to be closer to your true self.
Yeah.
So it's a process of probably lifetime, but probably at the beginning you need to spend more time than like after 5 years. It might happen after 5 years you have some emotions that need to be cleared. But so my biggest point, it's not the end of a story. It's not finished yet for me. I'm much more confident. I don't care about people's judgment. I'm more relaxed in social situations, especially when I'm in the center of attention and I'm in spotlight. But I still think I have lots to do.
Yep.
So
there's always room for improvement.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you focus on a particular issue and you resolve that issue, then it's like, wow, that's amazing. What else can I do? What's the next level that I can move to, right?
Yeah.
For myself, it started out with feeling less anxious. That was already great. Then no longer feeling general anxiety, which was great. Then feeling no anxiety but having difficulty connecting with people. Then being able to connect effortlessly, which was great. And now currently I'm also not where I want to be. I'm where I want to be socially, but I want to be in a really amazing connected relationship with an amazing woman, and I'm not there yet. I'm comfortable interacting with them, but I don't have that yet. So I'm looking with my mentor at, okay, so how can I move to that level? Because I've high standards when it comes to what I want, and so there are always higher levels, which is an exciting thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I mentioned before, I just want to reiterate that there is always a gift in any challenge. So in one side, on one hand, I had lots of bad events in my life, and it caused my social anxiety, and I was feeling very bad in those type of situations. And I tried my best to avoid those type of situations and not to be in the next level of my life, my career, my job. Another thing just came to my attention. Feeling better and more confident in those type of situations can lead me to a better job. I can be in like a leadership job in my field, and obviously I can play important role in my community. I would like to be more active in my community. If there is any issue with children, with any facility that I can handle, giving a speech in front of people, that's amazing. When you go to your community and talk about your ideas and help other people's, and that's something that's amazing. And my goal is to reach to that point, to help my community, and hopefully in the future, people of my country.
Nice, beautiful, good thing to.
When I say my country, I mean my original country.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
2 more questions. Would you recommend coaching? If so, why?
Definitely. As I mentioned, coaching can do root cause analysis in your problem, and through some questions, they can find the source of the issue in your childhood, and they can spot that particular problem which is related to social anxiety. That's the biggest advantage of coaching, because it is done by a practitioner or an expert who can do analysis and go to your childhood and find out what's going on through some event and release those emotions. Obviously, everybody can practice EFT by itself, but I personally recommend at least a few sessions based on the toughness of the case, but that would really help.
Brilliant. All right. Is there anything else to add?
I think, in my opinion, the best time and money that everybody can spend is what you spend on yourself, to uncover your true self and enjoy the life and live the life with your full potential. And also I have 2 quotes from Rumi. First quote is...
Who's Rumi?
Rumi is a Persian poet, and because I'm Persian, and Rumi is my favorite person, and that's why I chose
awesome.
Rumi.
I asked him if I could interview him, and he's been sending me some quotes throughout our relationship already, and at the beginning of the chat he's like, I have a couple of quotes. I'm like, all right, let's hear it. And if I don't ask you at the end, then let's bring him in. So let's hear it. I love Rumi.
The first quote is, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And the second quote is, what you seek is seeking you.
Great. Yeah. The first quote, it's exactly what we do. We're looking at what are the barriers in the way of you feeling safe to be yourself. Another way of saying that, what are the barriers in the way of you loving yourself? And, what's in the way of that is those fears and beliefs that come from those repetitive experiences and those traumatic events. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. That's I really appreciate it, and I think people are going to really benefit from hearing from this. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're interested in getting one-on-one coaching with yours truly, you can go to my social confidence coaching page. You'll find all the details there. You find other video testimonials there. You'll have an FAQ, frequently asked questions, with all my detailed, long, drawn-out answers there. And anything you want to know, you can probably find there. And then if it sounds like something you want to give a go, you can sign up for a free 20-minute intro chat, and we'll have a little chat over Skype, and we'll talk about how you can be free of social anxiety so that you can feel relaxed and have a good time socially. All right, I will talk to you at some point. Bye for now.